Hello everyone. In today's session, we will discuss about component level design. So here, the component level design, this phase will come only when we have completed our architectural design. That means what are the things we need, all the necessary information, everything when we have gathered from business logic perspective and database perspective, then only we need to think about to designing component, right? So what is meant by a component means it's a building block which is easy for deployment, it's easy for replaceable, and it should follow the modularity. In one word, we can simply tell that this component encapsulates the implementation. It encapsulates the implementation, and it also exposes some set of interfaces. Through that interface only we can able to communicate to the component, right? It's a simple description about component. Next, there are many design principles are there, right? So the first principle tells that this module should be open for extension but closed for modification, and subclasses should be substitutable for their base class. It also depends on abstraction but does not depends on conclusions. Many client-specific interfaces are better than one general interface. Right? If you so these are the basic general principles, and I will tell you. I will give you one example so that you will get a clear idea about the first point. That is, it should be open for extension but closed for modification. Let us think about that. You are developing an application. In that application, you need to display the everyday stock exchange, the everyday stock market rise and ups, all the things, that means ups and downs, all the information you need to display in your website. So for that, you need to communicate with one API of the stock market. So that API is already reside in one location. So you need to extend that particular API and need to display in your website. But you does not get able to access to make modification, right? That means you can able to use that particular API, that particular thing which gives the output about stock market, right? This is a simple example so that we can get a clear idea. That means it should not be open for modification, but it should be open for extension only, right? And let us see CBSE. What is CBSE means? Component based software engineering. Component based software engineering, right? It is a process through that we can able to develop a good software components. So it follows some basic steps. What are the basic steps means? First, it need to do the domain engineering, and next, component qualification, adaption, and composition, and finally classifying and retrieving components, right? Let us study what is those all the things step by step, right? So domain engineering, right? It's a very simple thing. Domain engineering, that means where in which area you are going to develop, in which particular product you are going to develop, those all things will come under the domain. That means you should have a very clear idea about domain engineering regarding what are the concepts and what are the content and what are the context, all those things which lie. That means you need to do the lot of analysis. The analysis process will help to identify and construct a good catalog, a good software, so that it will be useful for existing and future of the software in developing a particular application domain, right? These all things comes under the domain engineering. And coming to the component qualification. So a component qualification, it tells that that component should be qualified in achieving good performance, reliability, and usability. So that should be perfectly fit, that component perfectly fit for your application. So that for that you need to qualify it. So to need to qualify, it should satisfy the performance, reliability, usability should be satisfy the performance, reliability, and usability, which are very much useful for the application. Next, component adaption. So here, a component adaption is a kind of a technique which is also called as component wrapping. It has three types: white box wrapping, gray box wrapping, and black box wrapping. So that means through this wrapping, the developer can easily get some access for the internal design of the code. That means this white box wrapping examines the internal processing details, and they can have the access to make some code level modifications also to remove any kind of conflicts. Sometimes the component will have some conflicts. At that time, the developer need to apply white box wrapping, and gray box wrapping is applied when we need to do some kind of extension. That means at that time they need to have a clear idea about the component library or API, all those things, right? In this case, they will depend on the gray box wrapping. And coming to the black box wrapping, it tells about all the pre and post processing of the computer interface to remove any kind of mask conflicts. So in this situation, they will depend upon the black box wrapping, right? And coming to the component composition, so it's the name itself indicating composition. That means we need to mix up. So whenever the component has been perfectly qualified and the component is perfectly adapted, then the everything will be composed into useful for the application. That means everything need to mix and perfectly set up and perfectly useful in our application. So this particular phase we can call it as a component composition. You can simply call it as assembling qualified, adapted, and engineering components. And next, classifying and retrieving the components. So already I told you that while explaining things in this video itself, this software component will depends upon three C's. What are these? Concept, context, and content and context. So what is the concept? Concept means what the thing it is going to do. That means that component is what the thing it is going to do. In the example I told, it will display the stock market. That is the concept. And content, how that concept is going to realize, how that particular concept is going to show. Those all the things will be held in the content, right? So in the overall, this CBSE tool supports for two important purposes, that is having good integration and useful for that, and it is useful for the reusability. So I already told that this component design is a very hot topic in nowadays in the IT industry. Everyone is going to build a component. So the main useful is reusability. If a component is well designed, then we can use it in anywhere where that is required. When that application is needed, then simply we can call that component, we can integrate it, and we can use it, right? This is the basic information about the component, right? If you understand all the things which I have explained regarding the component, it is very much useful, right? This is the simple information, right? In next concept, we'll cover new topic, right? Thanks for watching.